Hi, I'm Sam.
And I'm Andrew.
And we're NV Board Gaming. And today we're looking at Chai along with the expansion Chai High Tea. Andrew is going to show us how to play, and then we'll be back for our review.
Alright, so Chai is a game for 1 to 5 players, designed by Dan and Connie Kazmaier and published by Steep Games. This game is played in about 20 to 60 minutes, where players are going to be going to the pantry and to the market in order to fulfill tea orders. Let's see how it's played. Alright, so I already have a 4-player game set up. In this game, players are going to be tea merchants, like I said, and you're going to be doing one of 3 things on your turn. Okay? You're either going to be going to the market, you're going to be going to the pantry, or you're going to be reserving customers and using abilities. Now, the game is only going to last 5 rounds, and each round is going to be finished when each of these cups have been filled with an order. So in a 4-player game, once 4 orders are completed, that will be the end of the first round. If you're playing a 2-player game, you're only going to have 2 cups, so the rounds are going to be shorter. All right, and after the end of the 5 rounds, whoever has the most points is going to be the winner. The way you are going to be scoring points is going to be with your order cards here, as well as with any money that is also going to score you victory points. All right, when you're setting up, the first player is going to get 1 coin, and everyone else will get 2 coins as their starting money, as well as if you're wanting to start with a special ability, you can use the high tea expansion to use an ability, and you'll add it to your player board. And so let me show you where that's at now. All right, so with your player area, you're going to have your tea house. You're going to start with a customer that you are going to be given of your color. Everybody's going to start with one of their color, and then their cards are going to be shuffled together to create the customer deck. You're going to take 6 leaf tokens of your color. And if you are playing with the expansion, what you're going to do is you're going to take this little ability tile and you're going to place it right here next to your board. Each tile is going to be double-sided. And so what you're going to be doing throughout the game is whenever you use the ability, you will then flip it over so that the next round you can use the other ability, and you will continue flipping as you use the abilities. All right, so let me talk to you about your different actions. What you're going to be doing is you're either going to go to the market to buy ingredients, you're going to go to the pantry to get ingredients, or again, you're going to reserve some customers and use abilities. You can only reserve up to 3 customers at a given time. So let's go over each of the actions now. Now, the first action you're going to be able to do is going to be visiting the market. When you visit the market, you're automatically going to gain 3 coins. However, when you go to the market, you have to spend at least 1 coin. And the way this is going to work is you're going to be buying ingredients, and the cost is going to be determined by which column they are in. Okay, so this first column is going to be worth a copper. I'll kind of tip these up so they're easier to see. So this is going to be worth a copper. These are going to be worth 2, and these are going to be worth 3. All right. However, and you can buy as many as you want. Everything will slide down as you buy them. However, it will not refill until after your turn. Okay, but for a simple 1 single buy, you can get multiple ingredients. So with that, I believe this is jasmine. So what you're going to do is if I wanted to buy these tiles, since they are the same tile, I can buy them with 1 single buy, meaning I can get both of these for paying 1 price. And the way you're going to do that is you are going to find the most expensive. So in this row, this one is going to be the most expensive. I would spend just 2 coins instead of 3, and I would get both of these tiles, and I would place them into my tea house. Okay, after I do that, I slide down and I can continue to make purchases. I can now buy these 2 lemons here if I wanted to for $2 instead of having to buy them each individually for 4 total. Okay, and as you're doing this, you're going to be able to buy more and more ingredients. However, you will notice that there are some of these tiles that are wild. When you are buying for a wild, okay, I cannot buy all 3 of these in 1 simple action. This breaks it up. All right, these cannot count as these green leaves. However, if these random or wild ingredients tiles are adjacent to each other. So if there was another wild next to it, I could count those together and I could buy them both for one single buy. Okay, so do keep in mind that you do have to spend at least $1, and this will not refill until after your turn. So that's what you're going to be able to do. You're going to be able to come here to the market, gain $3, and buy any ingredients that you need. Now, you can only hold a maximum of 12 ingredients. That is going to be shown here on your tea house. So at most, you're going to be able to have are 12 ingredients, so you are limited there. So that is the first action of going and visiting the market. Now, let's go look at the pantry action. All right, so now for the pantry action, you're going to come here and you can take any 3 pantry items. Now at the start of the game, there is one of every single item. So when you come here, you can take any one of these, or you can blind draw from the bag and just kind of hope that you get what you need. All right, this does not cost you any money. You just come, choose 3 tokens that you want. I should say too during this video that these are the upgraded tokens, so these are the acrylic ones, and as you see, I've got some pieces that did not come in the best of shape, so take that with a grain of salt. We'll talk about that more during our review. So yeah, you can take any one of these. Again, it won't refill until after your turn, or you can blind draw out of the bag. Now you can, when you come to the pantry, spend 1 coin to kind of reset the board. So put them all back in the bag and draw out 5 new ones. And that way, maybe if you don't see what you want, you could do that. But you can only do that once. You cannot continue to spend money for more and more resets of the pantry. Okay, so that is the pantry action. So now let's go to the third option, which is going to be reserving a customer and using an ability. All right, so when you choose to do the reserve a customer and use abilities action, it's pretty self-explanatory. You're going to take a look at the available customers in the display, and you're going to choose one to take and reserve for yourself. Okay, and these are going to range from anywhere between 5 and 15 points that these cards are going to be worth. Some of them are going to just have market tiles. Some are just going to have simply pantry tiles, and some will have a mixture of. So what you're going to do is I can, let's say I want to claim this tile here, and I will place it next to my tea house, and then I can use, this is going to refill, and then I can use any one of these abilities. And these abilities are going to change throughout the game, which I'll get to when we talk about end of the round, kind of like setting up for the next round. So I'll go over these ones real simple. So these are some of the abilities that you're going to be able to use during the game. So this one here is going to allow you to make a copper or a silver purchase at the market for free. Okay, so you won't have to pay, you'll just get a free silver or bronze purchase from the market for free. Okay, this one over here is going to allow you to sell a flavor tile for a silver. So you can get rid of one of your tiles that you have in your tea house, and you'll get $2 for that. And then the one there in the middle is going to allow you to exchange 2 tiles on your player board for 1 non-wild tile. So that is from the pantry. So keep that in mind. I know, for example, so the reference I have is kind of mixed up. So this says it's a market tile, but it's actually pantry, and this one says pantry when it's actually a market. But these are some of the deluxe. That's a deluxe ability that you could find in the game. So do kind of make sure you understand what they say, because there could be some misprints on your copy. Okay, so after you've done that, you get to refill. Okay, and what you're going to be doing is then, after you have taken your action, whether it's a market, pantry, or a reservation / use the abilities action, you then have the opportunity to fulfill an order. So let's talk about what you have to do to fulfill an order. All right, so after I've taken my action, I can either fulfill an order from one of the cards that I have reserved, or I can just simply reserve or fulfill one of the orders that is already out on the display. So you don't have to have it reserved in order to fill that order. Okay, so keep that in mind. You can either fill from the display or from one of your reserved cards. Okay, so let's say I wanted to fulfill this one. I would simply pay the ingredients. So I'd get rid of the 2 lavender, and then I believe this is cinnamon. All right, and then since this is my color, I have to use a leaf of my color. So I would use one of these black leaf tokens, and I would have them. Now, let's say I was fulfilling this red. Okay, so again, I would spend the ingredients needed. However, this is a red leaf, not one of my black leaves. I would have to, in order to fill this order, pay the red player 1 copper in order to buy one of their red leaves from them. Okay, so you are essentially giving them a point in order to fulfill this order. So it isn't like negotiable. They can't deny you from getting that leaf. They have to give it to you if it's available. However, later in the game, if there are no more red leaves available, you cannot fulfill this order. And for every order that you cannot fulfill that you have reserved at the end of the game is going to be negative points. So make sure to keep that in mind as you are playing throughout the game. You have to make sure and monitor and see how many leaves of each color are still available in the game. Okay, so, but let's go back. Let's say I was fulfilling this order. I'm going to take the ingredients needed for the order, and I'm going to place them into one of these teacups up at the top. Okay, so let's say I went ahead and I placed the order there. I am then going to flip the tip token, and I will receive the reward. All right. And you might want to be, there is a variant in the game where depending on who has a majority in each cup for their leaf, so I want to try to have as many of these black leaves in as many cups as possible to win majority for them, because each cup is going to give a victory point as well for having a majority. That is a variant that you can play with if you like. You don't have to if you don't want to. All right. And so after every single one of those cups have taken an order and the tip token is flipped over, that is going to signal the end of the round. At the end of the round, you will advance the round marker up 1. All right, you will place out new tip tokens. Again, these are upgraded ones. The original ones are cardboard. Okay, you're going to rotate the first player, and you are also going to change out one of these abilities. A player is going to get to choose which ability they're going to replace with the next one off the top of the deck, so that these will always be ever changing, so you'll have new abilities available to you throughout the game. Okay, and so then, like I said, at the end of the 5 rounds, you're going to get points for your fulfilled orders. You're also going to get points for any leftover money that you have. You're going to lose points for any orders that you have reserved that are not filled. Okay, and then also you'll get points for majorities in the cups. Okay, so that is how you're going to play the game. After 5 rounds, whoever has the highest score is going to be the winner, and that's how you play Chai. So let's take it back up top and go over to the couch and get our final review.
Okay, we're back, and thank you, Andrew, for the teach.
Yeah.
So let's talk about positives first for the base game and the expansion.
Okay, you want me to go first?
Yes.
All right, so for the base game, we'll start with the base game. And so, well, actually, I guess it kind of goes along with base game and with the expansion. So first off, I would say that the production for the game, art is beautiful. The components are beautiful. So I'm kind of lumping production and art in. It's really nice. You got the actual teacups that you're using to fill with those acrylic tokens. They have the screen printing on them. Mm-hmm. You have the beautiful art on the tarot size cards, those nice thick cards, which are nice. Yeah. The market board is nice. It's dual layered, so that, is just really aesthetically, it's very beautiful looking while it's on the table. It's going to definitely pop and bring some attention to the table when people see it. You have those really nice wooden leaf pieces. So with the game, it's not just cubes, you actually have the different leaves, and mm-hmm. you have the different colors and the insert and everything. It all kind of works really nicely in the box. So it's overall, I really like the production. The game is quick, so I mean it's a 20 to 40 minute game, I believe, if I remember right, which is pretty fast. You know, even in a 2-player game, you can really move pretty quickly through the turns and get done because there's only 5 rounds, and a round is over once those teacups are filled. So in a 2-player game, we could really be booking it.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it plays quick. I hadn't really noticed any like best player count. I think it works at almost all player counts, or all player counts. I shouldn't say most. I'll say all player counts. It works really well. It's a quick. It's definitely in a bigger box. Makes you think it's a bigger game, but it's actually a pretty quick, pretty simple game. So it's not a tough teach. So yeah, I think that's some of the positives for me when it comes to the game. And you know, the expansion is, although small, you do have these thick tiles that have really nice artwork on them to go along with your tea house. And the dice that come with the 2 dice that come with the expansion are, you know, good quality dice, I should say. So yeah, so that is those are my positives. What are your positives for the game?
Well, my positives are that it is a pretty game, just like you said. I pretty much agree with all the positives that you gave it. The components are good quality. I feel that it's easy to learn. I am not a fan of the rule book, though. I mean, that's probably just me because I've tried to, you know, like learn it myself, but it was kind of annoying. Like, I didn't like the rule book, but I guess that would be a negative, but I just kind of...
I thought we were talking about positives first.
I know, that kind of just came to my brain for some weird apparent reason.
Before the review, she's like, well, just talk about positives, and then we'll go.
So, okay, so anyway, yeah, it's a beautiful game. It's easy to play. I like the components. I like the theme of it. I thought I got excited about it being about tea, and, you know, kind of like a barista type game, which I thought was different than anything I had played. And, you know, the pieces are really nice. I feel like it's not a cheap feeling game. And just, you know, overall, like, I feel like it's enjoyable, the base game.
Yeah. And if you don't know, this is Samantha's number 20 game of all time.
Yeah, number 20.
So we had done our top 100 games. You did your top 50, and this made Samantha's number 20. So it has to be really good, right? It has to be really good, right?
I mean, really good would be like up higher.
I'm just saying, top 20 is pretty high.
20 still.
So yeah, any other positives that you would like to point out?
I do like that it's a quick play too. So it is a game that it doesn't take that long to set up, and that you can play it fairly quick.
Doesn't take long if I set it up. You don't like setting it up.
Yeah, that's true. That goes along with the rule
But then
book.
again, it was a long time ago when you tried to set it up, when you were first kind of getting into the gaming, so you were a little caught off. But yeah.
Yeah, you had me do it, and it was a hot mess.
You got very frustrated.
Yeah, I was like, I'm done. And I threw the rule book. No.
Yep.
But yeah, so those are all of my positives.
You should know, I believe they did a remake of the rule book in this last Kickstarter, but you had to pay to get it or something like that. I did not order it. I was like, it's, you know,
you should be
not worth some
grandfathered
extra
in.
money.
Why would you have to pay for it?
I don't know.
Okay.
So
anyway,
that's what happened. If I have my facts straight, I might be a little wrong there. Honestly, that's not one of the things I was focusing on when I was planning this review. Okay. So that's your positives. Number 20 game of all time. So let's talk. Is there any other positives you would like to discuss?
No, I don't think so.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I think you covered really all of the positives,
all
and I'm
them?
kind of just agreeing with you.
Okay.
And besides,
did you like the gameplay?
The gameplay?
Yeah, how simple it was, all that stuff? Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right, so I'll let you go first. Let's talk about, first we'll just talk about the base game, then we can talk about the expansion. What are your negatives?
Okay, so rule book, that was a negative.
Right, if you haven't gotten that already, it's
yeah. And something that is frustrating is the expansion.
Oh, so you have no negatives for the base game?
Not really.
I just want to
Not
playing
really.
this?
I'm trying to be an optimistic person.
No, it's fine. No, okay. So no negatives for the base game.
For the base game, I would say, okay, let me take that back. I'm jumping into the expansion.
I don't want to coerce a negative out of you.
No, because I remember what we talked about prior to this video of what a negative was with the game in general. So, at the beginning of the game, you start out with your pantry full of one ingredient each.
Right. So there's 5 different pantry items, and you start with one each.
Yep. Yes, you start with one each. Now, I feel like it would be fair if they were random. Like, you pull them out of the bag and they're random in the pantry.
Right. Why do you think that?
I think that because there are cards that come out that are easy to fill. So literally the cards could come out and you could fill them in your very first turn, which I feel like it should be a little more complicated than that, but it should be random because...
But they're also worth 8 points.
Yes.
And which is a little ridiculous because it doesn't cost you anything to get that. Mm-hmm. You can immediately on your first turn, if it's out there, and I would say that these pantry-only cards make up about, I don't know, I think they have like 6 or 8 of them in the little deck. So if it's a 2-player game, like there's a good chunk of the deck that is just these cards.
Yeah. It doesn't really entice you to want to do the more difficult cards because if you're only getting like an extra like 2 points for a more difficult card.
Some of the ones where you have to go and buy the tiles are actually worth less points than just that first turn. If one of those pantry tiles are out there and they just need one of each pantry, I don't mean to jump in on your negative, but you kind of stole this from me. And so, because this was one of the first things I did not like about this game was that like your first turn, you could say, okay, I'm going to go to the pantry. Doesn't cost me any money. I can take 3. Boom, boom, boom. I'm fulfilling this tile. I get 8 points.
Right.
I'm fulfilling this order. I get 8 points. Meanwhile, there are ones that cost like 3 different ingredients, but you have to actually go to the marketplace and spend money in order to get those ingredients if they're out there and at a decent price to fulfill that order. And that order, so you have to essentially give up something, income or whatever, in order to get those and get the right ingredients to fulfill an order that is worth less points than simply going to the pantry, getting 3 for free and getting 8 points. I don't know. Maybe that's a minor thing and maybe that's just me. I just think if it's that quick where I can just, first rule of the game or first thing of the game, boom. And half the round is over because somebody already fulfilled that cup. Yeah. You know?
That's his biggest pet peeve.
It's one of, probably not the biggest, but it's one of the issues that I do have with the base game is this fact that like it could just be first player, boom, I get an order, I'm immediately ahead of you by 8 points. And you have to hope that the other person doesn't get it. Granted, there's a chance another one comes out, blah, blah, blah. But I just think maybe if the pantry tiles were random at the beginning, it's less likely to be, I'm going to just fulfill this right away. Granted, you still could, or I might just take those cards out. I don't know. I get that that's probably not in the spirit of the game, but I honestly hate those cards.
Yeah, well, and that's what I said, like, is that it should have been random because
I'm agreeing with you.
The marketplace is random, so I don't know why the pantry isn't random as well. To me, that doesn't make sense. And I'm thinking more of like, okay, there's bigger cards that are worth 11, 12 points.
15 points.
But why are you going to work double, like, as hard to get that card when you can easily fill... It doesn't really entice you to want to try harder. Right. Is the way that I see it, is that it makes it so easy that you're like, oh, well, of course I would do that. Like, why wouldn't I fill that card? I can do it right now. Like, that makes sense. So, I feel like that. So that is a negative with the base game. Now going into my negatives for the expansion. I probably have more negatives to say about the expansion than I do with the base game. The expansion only came with a few of the like abilities. 6
double-sided tiles.
Yeah.
And each side had a different ability. So
Right.
each player would get one tile, and you would start with it on one side, and whenever you would use that ability, that tile would flip over, and you would
Right.
have to use that ability before you could flip it back.
Yeah. So first issue.
And it came with 2 dice.
First issue was that I felt like the abilities, some were really awesome and some were like not so great. So some were overpowered, and then the other ones, so if like one player had one that was overpowered and then the other one kind of had one that was like meh, like, and it would, we talked about this, how you'd be like trying to flip back to the other side,
Right.
because you'd be like, oh, this is crappy, I gotta just go back to this one because this, I don't really like this ability and stuff. And so I felt like it was not balanced when it came to the
Right.
abilities.
Yeah, if you got a really bad ability and somebody got a really good ability, you
Yeah.
could be honestly kind of screwed. Because
Yeah.
sometimes you're like, I don't even want to use this ability, but I can't get to the good side because I have to
Right.
use this.
Yeah.
And you're like, meanwhile, this other person is getting ingredients for free and, you
Yeah.
know, all the fulfilling, you know, stuff and getting extra bonuses and all
Well,
this other
and
stuff.
I had one that was like copy your player's ability.
Right.
And that was my best one that I had. But when
That only works if the other person has a good ability.
Yes, and so when I would go to use it, I'd be like, "Oh, he flipped it. I don't
Right.
even want this ability." You know what I
Right.
mean? Like it kind of.
Then you have to wait for me to flip it.
Yes.
I agree. There was a lot of some abilities were really good and some were really bad. And honestly, like it was like, oh, I mean, it just didn't really add as much to the game as I'd hoped it would.
Right, yeah.
I'd hoped that the abilities would have been a little bit more balanced. They would have been a little bit more, I don't know, impacts. Like some are very impactful in the game, and like you can get some stuff for free and really get rolling. But then other ones, it's just kind of like a waste of an ability. Like you're like, I'm gonna use this because I have to get to the other side, but I really don't want to, and I really don't care, you know. And then like they have the dice, and one thing is that you can make the game harder. Like why? I don't. Hey, roll these dice, and you can't do this or do that. You can't buy this or buy that for this round. Like what? Like why? I don't. That's to me that's a stupid thing. Just hey. Chai, you don't like that Chai is a game that's quick and snappy in 20 minutes? Here, let's make it take a little longer.
Yeah. And my other issue with the expansion was the pantry, the quality of the pantry tokens.
Well, that was not an expansion.
Okay.
That was add-ons.
Okay, I'm saying just add-ons for
Right.
what we had. I thought they were like poor quality. Some paint was like, or whatever they call
The screen
that.
print was chipped
The
on
screen-
about a third of them was chipped.
Right. And so I was kind of like, for the price that you paid for those, I didn't think it was worth it.
Right.
So I wanted to put that out there because, you know, if people were going to purchase them or whatever, like it just didn't seem worth it
Right.
to me.
The
And
tip tokens were nice. They weren't chipped.
yeah,
We didn't have any chipped with the tip tokens.
right.
Those were decent.
Yeah.
The pantry tokens were the worst.
Yeah, exactly. And I was expecting more from the expansion too because, you know, it is a game. Chai is a game that I do enjoy playing. And I just thought like all this anticipation of it coming and waiting so long that there was going to be a lot more to it, and there wasn't. So I was kind of like, oh, like that's it. That was a little disappointing for me as a person who enjoys playing Chai. You know?
Right. And so I will say with the add-ons, just to kind of go with, I did get the 2 bags that were supposed to be extra large bags, right? And they looked really nice, but the bags were not larger. They were the exact same size as the normal bags that came in the game.
Right.
So I just paid extra money for these bags that are supposed to be larger because it's already such a pain to get in there and get the tiles out. You know, and with they just weren't. It wasn't good. It was bad. Just to buy equally bad bags that are just now silky, and so it was a waste of money. It was a waste of money. The expansion, I don't think was worth the money. There was $20 for the expansion, and then I think when we did the unboxing, I said it cost me $60 total. It was $54 but that's not including shipping. So then add shipping onto that. I paid $54 for the expansion, the acrylic tip tokens, the acrylic pantry tokens, and the enlarged bags that were not enlarged, not at all. They're the exact same size. Okay. And so, yeah, did you have any more negatives before I...
No, I don't.
Did mine?
I don't think so. I think those were like the biggest things for me.
I will say I do not like this game. I do not like this game. I do not like this expansion. I have no love to give, right? But most of that is because of my experience with the Kickstarter. Now, I might be in the minority. I don't know, okay? When I back Kickstarters, I follow them. I follow the updates. I follow the comments. I might not be very active in the comments or anything, but I like to know what's going on. You know, I don't make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. I'm not a millionaire, anything like that. I can't just send my money off and not care what happens to it.
Yeah.
You know, I understand that Kickstarter is not a pre-order system, or there is some risk to not get the item that you back, right? You are backing somebody's project, that they have this idea and you're helping it to come alive, right? But in the 53 games that I've backed in the last 6 years that I've been involved in Kickstarter, I think the first time was, in 2016 when I backed a game. This is, for me, and I know some people have not had games that have delivered, but for me, this is my worst Kickstarter experience. And not the base game was late when I backed it, but I didn't mind that at all. Okay, it was Steeped Games' first Kickstarter they ever did. Okay, and usually Kickstarters are a few months late. That's fine. Okay, communication was bad in the first Kickstarter. Again, I wanted to be patient and gracious with them because it was their first time doing a Kickstarter. Okay, so the second time comes around, and the game you really liked, and I wanted to be able to support it. It was a small little expansion. Although I didn't feel like the Kickstarter page was very informative about what it was. Essentially a reprint with this little tiny expansion that you could get. Okay, so I bought the add-ons because I was like, you know what, Samantha really likes this game. I'll get the deluxe extras and I'll get the little expansion. No big deal. Okay, so this was essentially a reprint. There were no rules changes. They had like redid the rule book, I believe. Again, I did not get that, but then they had the tiny little expansion. There were 6 tiles and 2 dice. Okay, this Kickstarter for me was 14 months late. Okay, I live in the States. We live in Indiana. 14 months late. Okay, and throughout this campaign, there was a number of issues, a number of lies, a number of misinformation. It was horrible. People that were involved in the helping with, answering questions and being involved in the comments. They had 3 different people that went through this position. Okay, and there was one which I will get to as one of my highlights for this game that I honestly really did appreciate his help. I felt like he did the best job that he could with the information that he was given. Okay, so with this Kickstarter, okay, the game, I'll tell you now, the game, it's a little too simple for me, especially the 2-player game. I'll just kind of talk about the base game before I go into why I cannot stand this game. Ultimately, the game itself, if I'm reviewing the game itself, I would, just as I'll tell you my score for, I would give it a 6. It's meh. It's okay. It's a quick little game. We already kind of talked about those pantry cards I don't care about. It would get a 6. It's a beautiful looking game. There's not much to it. It's just meh. It's okay. Other than it being beautiful, and I see that it's gotten rewards for it looking gorgeous, and first time publishers, when all the rewards are going out, that was good. But I don't think anybody ever raves about this game, about how great the gameplay is and all this stuff. And I don't think it really shines there. This is almost like it's a big box filler game. And to me, not worth the money that you pay for a game that's this deluxeified. Maybe if you really love the game, fine. Maybe if you really love tea, fine. But the reality is that this game is not worth the money that it is. The gameplay is meh. In a 2-player game, I don't know if we ever reserve any customers or ever use those abilities. You know, and I just didn't find that it was ever. To me, it was almost like a waste of a turn. Yeah, I get to use an ability, but it was what it was. I just kind of was churning out and getting orders left and right because a lot of them aren't that difficult. You know, if I can just go to the pantry, fulfill, boom. Go to the market, fulfill, boom, done.
I think that would be more like with more players, the reserve.
Right. I think you would use it more during the more players. You would definitely.
Yeah.
So maybe at a higher player count, you would use that. But ultimately, the gameplay was meh to me at best. Okay. So I give the game a 6. Okay. It's just not my cup of tea, pun intended. Okay. You know, Dan and Connie love their puns when they're posting in Facebook and everything. But because of the experience that I had, I cannot sit down and enjoy this game. I can't. It frustrates me because the backers of the Kickstarter that was most recent, well, not the most recent, they have another one that's supposed to be coming out that's getting just as horrible treatment, in my opinion, as this expansion when I backed the expansion. So when I backed the expansion, right, you know, during the campaign, and I'm just going to call them out, Dan and Connie were very active in the comments, updates all the time. They're always active during the campaign. But mark my words, as soon as the campaign is over, they disappear. They disappear for months and months and months. The Kickstarter that still has not even reached the UK. Nobody in the UK, the games aren't getting delivered, right? Australia, they have no idea. I don't even know if they admit it, but at one point they had no idea where any of the games were in Australia. People don't know if they're ever going to get them, okay? They just apparently have disappeared. I swear, go look at the comments about the people in the UK, the people in Australia that back this game, and they don't get anything. No, I mean, Dave Chapman is the guy who's helping with customer service right now, and he is doing the best job that he can. He's even, I mentioned that a third of my tokens were chipped. He mentioned reaching out to him. I will and be able to get those fixed. I don't know how long that's take. I'm not going to hold my breath, but he has done the best that he can, and he is honestly the highlight of this campaign. Okay, I cannot stress enough how much I will never, ever, ever back a game from Steep Games and Dan and Connie. I cannot do it just based on the lack of communication. The last update that this Kickstarter got was in September, okay? And yes, people were getting toxic in the comments. Yes, there was a lot of frustration on the backers' part because they felt so ignored and so disrespected and so hurt. And again, I'm somebody who I care about where I put my money. I know a lot of people back games are like, when it shows up, it shows up, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. Whoop-de-doo, I threw $60 at it. I don't do that. I don't like to just throw money and be like, it's money, whatever. And it's a board game. I think when you're backing a board game in Kickstarter, even though you know that there is a possibility and there are risks, and they tell you this when you are crowdfunding these games, that you know it could fall short and you could not get your rewards, right? Okay, and that has happened, but I feel like in the board gaming area, it's rare and far between, you know? And I haven't backed hundreds. Like I've said, I've only backed 53. And I've gotten every single one so far. Okay. Now, with that being said, the reason why there has been such toxic comments, such frustration, and even possibly some reflected disrespect back to Dan and Connie and Steep Games is because of the way that it was handled. And because we were told, so this game was originally expected to deliver in December of 2020. So this game fulfilled its, well, not fulfilled, the campaign was completed in June 24th of 2020, right? And the game was expected, you know, just this tiny little expansion, right? This and a reprint and then the acrylic tokens, right? This was supposed to deliver in December of 2020, okay? And I'll tell you, I'm not gonna, I went through, just for my own sanity, because I don't I want to make sure that if I'm going to say something, I'm going to have some evidence, screenshots to back up what I'm saying. But I went through all of the updates and the comments from back to when the campaign was completed, right? And I went through all of them and I took notes on every single update to support what we were told, okay? And remember, it is now March 2022. People are still getting, like, UK has not gotten their games, Australia has not gotten their games. There are people in the States that have still not gotten their games. There was an issue with shipping where people had put in their shipping information, but somehow it got sent to Calgary for local pickup, and now they're having to reship them, and they were going to do them individually, but then they were shipping them in bulk, so people were waiting longer to try for them to be able to, figure out how many got messed up. And from my understanding, there was a significant number of people that have that problem.
I would guess.
Okay? And so looking back at the comments, I'm not going to try to go through all of this. If people want to comment and ask me about different things, I will gladly share with you everything that we've had. But over the 14 months that it was late, okay, but over the nearly not quite 2 years, we're at 21 months since the campaign was fulfilled or was completed. There have been so many timelines that we were told. We were told at one point in December of 2020 that the games were leaving. The games were on their way. They were being fulfilled, and didn't happen at all. Just blatantly told, oh, the expansions, they're going to be put on a plane. They're going to be flown over, and you're going to get them. They're on their way. They're on their way. Guess what? Not even close. Not even close. We had so many things where Dan and Connie would come on there and tell us these false reports that things were done that weren't done, that they were making progress on things that weren't making progress. So let me kind of I'm just going to go through this a little bit, okay? And so this might be a longer review because of this, but I feel like when we are reviewing games, right, and publishers, they have people review games, I want to be honest about my experience with the publisher. I want to be honest about, what I am reviewing, right? Because a lot of people, I don't know if a lot of people will get this information, and I see the exact same kind of behaviors and things that are happening with T4 okay? And from my understanding, they have a whole slew of games. And unless things drastically increase, I don't know how successful those will be. And I'm not trying to, get crazy on my soapbox, but I think people deserve to understand that if you're going to back a game from Steep Games, right, that this is what you will probably expect, because I experienced a little bit of it from the base game, a ton of it for this expansion, and people are experiencing it from T4 now, and there's comments in there. So here's what I'll go all the way back to right after it fulfilled. So in July, they did a thing saying that this was 2 weeks after the Kickstarter was done. They said, the Pledge Manager was going to come out soon, that manufacturing was already a week into production. Manufacturing was already a week into production. This is July 7th of 2020, right? Okay, at 2 different factories for the base game, the expansion, and for the add-ons, and then they were on track for the schedule. Okay, they had samples of add-ons, coins, acrylics, and bags that were coming in a week. Okay, a week from July 7th, they said this. Okay, they had the updated rulebook added to high tea pledges for free, aside from shipping. If that was true, I didn't get an updated rulebook at all with my expansion. Okay. And then they had someone that was working on emails and communications. They introduced her. Her name was Angelica, but she wasn't there the whole time. And, they have their own personal reasons. I'm not calling any of them out. Then in August, right, because the Kickstarter, the Pledge Manager was supposed to be coming through. So in August 10th, they said they're busy working on shipping as manufacturing finishes in the next few weeks so games can be packaged and put on boats. Keep in mind that the Pledge Manager wasn't even open yet. Okay, so the Pledge Manager, as of August 16th, when they said it would be open soon, was not open yet, but they were telling us that they were busy working on shipping since manufacturing was finishing up in the next few weeks, okay? And they were going to be packaging everything up, right? So that means it's almost done. All this stuff should be done, okay? Then the Pledge Manager was supposed to be approved for the week for that week and was to stay open until October, the end of October 2020. Okay, the print and plays were supposed to be emailed directly when you finish the pledge. I don't even know if people. I think people didn't even get them. I don't know. I might have those in my notes. I did these notes months ago when I thought this was going to get delivered back in December. Okay. They said that metal coins were 70% of the way done. Acrylic tokens were almost complete. That all add-ons would only increase shipping for $1.50. And also that the chai tea masters will not, that were still not done from the previous Kickstarter. They were working on those. But they were still on track for a December 2020 delivery. Okay, so then you have another update in August, all right, that the pledge manager finally launched. Okay, they said the coins were done, that card files were prepped today and tomorrow. Okay, which seems weird that card files were prepped, but they were saying that production was almost done. Okay, they promised to keep monthly updates coming. That did not happen at all. They promised to keep monthly updates coming early in September and focus on production and rulebook. There was no September update. So they posted in August, said there'll be monthly updates. Granted, they did do 2 updates in August. Okay, so maybe I'll give them September. Okay, so even into September, right? Because these print and plays were supposed to go out. Nobody had them as of September because they were supposed to go out right after the campaign was done. Okay, the campaign overheard from Angelica was on September 1st until October 15th, when she finally had access to GameFound to send PM invites out to individuals who haven't received it yet. So there were still issues there. Then you have October 31st was their next one. Okay, so they literally waited until the last day of October 2020 again to say that that they were going to do an update. So they did it. Granted, it was in October, so I'll give them credit for that. Okay, they were wrapping up production, and the highlight was that the pledge manager was set to close. Okay, so they expanded the pledge manager to November 20th. Okay, and that 86% of people had completed. The first wave of the expansion and accessories would go out later that month, which is interesting because they literally posted on the last day of October. Okay, they finished sewing the bags that week, and the acrylic pieces already were being done. So the idea was that if you had bought the expansion alone, that you would be getting them in December. But they were also supposed to, if you had the expansion with add-ons, you were supposed to be getting it. But that didn't happen, obviously. So they're finishing sewing bags that week, and acrylic pieces were already being done. Factory had run out of special paper for the cards, but it will be done in 15 days. Okay, the boxes and the rule books were being printed with them. Production will be done. Will then be all done. Okay, they had the chai tea masters were 95% of the way done, and will be sent out in November. Okay, then you had somebody named Greg who introduced himself, and he started helping out with stuff, but he was kind of gone as well in a short amount of time. So the factory was almost ready to box everything up at the end of October. Okay, then we don't hear anything in November. And then you have December where they talk about shipping. Okay, December 2020 talking about shipping. Okay, where Dan has been finalizing factory and logistic details to get everything mailed out. Okay, the delays with Chai High Tea leading to them painting and recurring 8,000 wooden tiles. They were all sent out by December 6th. So I'm kind of throwing in some extra information. If you don't know, Chai Master Tea was like a big fancy version from the very first Kickstarter that was years and years late. Okay, they admitted to communication errors on their end with their factory. Okay, so they had communications on their end with the factory. The factory literally was printing rule books now to package games, is what they said. And Dan himself admitted that he was burnt out with the games, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so he admitted that he was experiencing burnout, okay, and he announced Tea for Two and another title that they had planned for 2021, okay? So there were more issues with the cards, and Steep Games was taking responsibility, they said in their thing, but resolved and was wrapping everything up. So they resolved the issues with the cards, but they were wrapping more things up, but they were having bad communication with the factory. So it wasn't just with their backers, but with the people that they were working with as well. So there's all of these different issues that we see. Yeah, so supposedly everybody was supposed to have their print and play. Everybody, they had already mailed out the Tea Masters at this point, and that the Chai High Tea expansion would be mailed out directly from China in the next 2 to 4 weeks with international fulfillment, okay? And that if you had the Chai expansion with add-ons, they would also be mailed out directly from China within the next week and be fulfilled in 2 to 4 weeks, okay? So this was from them as of December 20th of 2020. Okay, so people are getting these expectations as to when this stuff is going to be delivered. That doesn't happen. Okay, Pledge Manager was turned off from new orders on November 22nd, but allowed those with credits to complete orders until the following week. Okay, then you have January. Okay, I'm going to try to maybe speed up a little bit because I know this is going to get a little lengthy. So nothing. So Chai High Tea expansion with or without the accessories would be in backers' hands in 2 to 5 weeks coming from China. Okay, we went from December 20th to January 29th. Okay, so now we got to wait another 2 to 5 weeks to get our expansion with or without the accessories. Okay, so in Canada, they were personally fulfilling orders, supposedly going to be doing that on February 22nd. Okay, and US orders, they had half the deluxe orders that would be fulfilled on February 26th, and the remaining would be on boats on February 25th, and fulfillment would be complete by March 30th. They had all these dates for different people. EU and Brexit, they had games that would be received at the warehouse on March 30th. Australian games were sent to VFI on February 28th. It takes longer, they will air. If it took any longer, they would airmail at Steep Games' expense, okay? All other games will arrive on February 28th, okay? The admission to factories being shut down for Chinese government on and off for 3 weeks, okay? Including factory doing cards with halted production to work on COVID vaccine production packaging, okay? So, yes, COVID was a big thing in 2020. I very much understand that. We had the shipping crisis, all of these things that were happening. That is not the problem that I had with this Kickstarter. It was not because of COVID. It was not because of the shipping crisis. It was not because of the increase in production materials. It was not because of these problems. And I know a lot of Kickstarters experience these delays, but that is not what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about is the actual people of Steep Games, aside from Dave Chapman, who I believe did his very best with the information that he had, that constantly were putting this in backers' minds that this was going to happen. They're airmailing them, that they have everything done, production's being wrapped up, everything's good. This is January of 2021, okay? So all this stuff is happening, and when in reality, it's really not. So all Canadian and Asian orders and 70% of US would be done by the end of February, right? Okay, they admit to having been working on 5 other games. They admitted in this Kickstarter, in this update, that they were working on 5 other games. When you still don't have a project that's fulfilled, right? And you already have another Kickstarter that is about to be running, right? And you're already having these issues, and you tell us you're working on 5 other games, okay?
Yeah, you should.
And
not.
he was just talking about how he was burnt out. Dan was talking about how he was burnt out because of this, okay? Okay, they announced that Greg was full-time, Angelica was part-time to assist with campaigns when it was live, okay? But I will tell you that these two were not involved in the comments hardly at all. People just disappeared. They just disappeared for months. And I would go through and I would check for months in the comments, okay? Then we go with February, no update. March, we get an update, okay? They had pictures of games arriving in Calgary, okay? The United States warehouse would be receiving rulebooks and accessories next week to fulfill the first wave, okay? And then the second wave would get bumped back because of retail copies. So supposedly, they decided to postpone backers getting their copies because they wanted to produce more retail copies. So they decided we're going to put a hold on everything to produce 5,000 more copies. Okay, they had a print run of High Tea that was too small due to a rush of Pledge Manager orders and retailers in February. Okay, which doesn't make sense because they said like the pledge was closed unless you had a credit. and you're telling me this many people put in this many orders. So February comes and they say, oh, now we produced not enough. So the factory is making another 1,000 copies, okay? Followed by factory print recommendations to meet demand in December. They went with conservative estimates because of COVID, okay? They will provide ship tracking information soon for EU and US second wave fulfillment mailing into countries now extended into April. So now fulfillment is extended into April. It's not going to be done in March. All remaining high tea and accessories were being mailed out over the next 1.5 weeks. These are the ones that are supposed to be air shipped to us. This was supposed to be my order, okay? And then Asian backers were to get their games in the next few weeks as well. And they have not gotten, at least Australia had not gotten anything because they were being sent to Australia supposedly. And so, but they admit again to being burnout on April 15th. Okay, so in the comments, they again talk about how they're burnt out, but they're working on 5 other games. It does not make any sense. It does not make any sense, okay? Yeah. So then in the April update that they do, okay, so April they do an update, and they admit again to being burnt out. So they're essentially saying, oh, we're just so tired, you know, we're so tired, we're not. Then maybe this isn't what you should be doing, you know? The factory has resolved extra quantities for high tea and will be out by April 30th. Extra copies being aired out directly to warehouses. There was an issue with an order, another issue, okay? Deluxe orders for EU, US, and UK were being put on ships to leave April 29th through May 3rd. Okay, shipping containers were 4 times the cost. Again, I understand that. And shipping agency recommended waiting a few weeks for expected decrease, which we all know did not happen. Okay, they confirmed ships because they waited a long time. So again, deluxe orders would be out in Asia, Australia, and New Zealand by April 30th. Again, we know that that didn't happen. Okay, update number 17 was in May. Okay, so they are getting on there. This is that point where they are doing at least some daily stuff here, or monthly stuff. Okay, so they're waiting to hear back about the factory about air mailing off high tea and the accessories. Orders were expected to be 100% complete by the end of that week, May 4th, 2021. Okay, so again, it's now May. Okay, things still aren't happening, even though they're saying, oh, in a week and a half, this is going to happen. In a couple weeks, this is going to happen. Things get pushed back. Okay. Stop giving us those dates if you don't want us to think about them, right? US and Canada high tea expansions are shipped with deluxe copies, are being airmailed, estimated to receive in the next week in North America. Didn't happen. Okay, then they started the Chai Tea for Two campaign that same week. Okay, then they updated again in May. When working with the factory, they confirmed shipping containers for North America and EU. They discovered that they needed to print another 307 Chai Deluxe games and another 597 high tea expansions. So another thing that they're delaying, saying we need to make more copies. So first it was delayed to make these extra thousands copies. Now we need to make these extra copies because they need to print more. They take ownership for the delays. Let's be honest, when they're taking ownership, it is minuscule as crap, I will say. Claiming that COVID affected the shipping and Brexit affected imports, then inevitably changes to small publisher fulfillment. Okay, so they're claiming, you know, we're small publisher, all this stuff. Okay, claiming to make sure backers get games first, then partners second, and retail release at the end. That was not the case. Okay, warehouse updates that aren't really updates, other than the names of the distributors who were handling fulfillment and the numbers they will be fulfilling when they get the products. Okay, due to the delays, they are new shipment dates for EU and the US containers. So some of the information that they put in these updates weren't really updates. It was just like, hey, here's our distributors, but it doesn't have any real information in there. Okay. Supposedly then, the Chai High Tea expansion was received by distributors on July 12th. Okay, remaining orders were going to be on a boat and were set to arrive on August 11th. Okay. All orders were fulfilled in July for Canada, supposedly, and unable to provide any additional refunds. So many people were asking for refunds for this game because of the issues and because of the concerns and lack of people just answering questions. Like, people would ask questions, they would never get answers to them. Okay, so they would not give back any more refunds, probably because there were so many people asking for refunds. Okay. So they explained their shipping. They said they paid $30.6 thousand for U.S. freight and 14.7 thousand to Germany. Okay, and then Greg dropped down to part-time. Okay, so he wasn't there for very long. Then we don't hear from anybody until September. Okay, so we go until September of 2021, and supposedly U.S. and German containers had arrived at the warehouse. Again, missing those deadlines as to when they said, oh, everything will arrive at August 11th. Didn't happen. More dates that go by unmet. These ridiculous things that they keep saying, okay? So then that's when Dave Chapman, the guy who actually I felt like gave information, joined the team, okay? And that was their last update then. And throughout the entire time, Dave did not have any way to do updates. He had to do everything in the comments. He would tell us, this is when the games went missing in Australia. This is when issues with the games in the UK, and they just sit and sit and sit, and people just don't know where they're at, and they say, oh, Happy Days is getting the games, but then backers would contact the distributor of, or not Happy Days, Happy Shops, I believe is the name in the UK, and they had no partnership whatsoever with Steep Games to deliver to deliver. There was no distribution agreement between Steep Games and Happy Shops to deliver this Kickstarter. It was communication that fell apart. They admitted to failing with the factories, miscommunication on their part. You have distributors claiming they don't even have partnerships with this company that the company is saying they have relationships with. You had the same thing with D6. They would say, oh, the games are all going to get shipped out, okay? And I personally even reached out to Deepwater Games, I think is what it was, as the distributor, and they were nowhere near based on what they were telling me, because they routed me to them. Okay, and then you have the issue where games get sent to Calgary when they're not supposed to for local pickup, despite people having filled out their pledge managers for shipping. It was a mess. It was a lie after a lie after a lie. People telling us, oh, we're burnt out. That's why we're not communicating. We're having communication issues with everybody all across the board. Oh, they're getting airshipped in a week. How do you go from they're being shipped out by air from China in a week and a half to a year later? Mm-hmm. Okay, and you're telling us, oh, the games are going to be done by February. They're going to be there by February. Nope. Well, they're going to be there by April. Nope. They're going to be there by August 11th. They'll get there. The ship will be there. Okay. What happened to them being aired? Nothing.
Well, and I think the truth of the matter is too about being like burnt out. If you're burnt out in any job, you're not going to be working at your best and being efficient, right? So that should have been a sign that we should not be working on any other games until the ones that were promised to people.
Why are you working on 5 other games when you have these issues?
Yeah.
You can't communicate. If you find that you are half-assing, you're half-assing the communication with your factories, with your distributors, with your backers. Why are you putting in work with 5 other games? You have to be able to gather support for those games. These are people that have backed your previous Kickstarter. I'm assuming you're going to go to Kickstarter with these other games. But why are you putting so much effort into, oh, I'm so burnt out, but I have some exciting news. I'm working on 5 other games, and I hope I won't be burnt out for those, and I won't have these same communication issues. It just drives me nuts. And then you're saying, oh, don't worry, guys, but all these issues, and people are frustrated about it, and they just disappear. There was so many claims that they didn't have enough. Now, I'm not saying that this is true or not, and I don't want to keep going, but I wanted to be thorough on this because this is frustrating. And if you're somebody who likes Chai, that's fine. You can like the game. I think it's a fine game it's meh for me. For me, it's meh. But I understand why people would like it, and that's cool. I don't have anything really that much against the game. I will say that even with the production being so great, there's still some issues. The screen printing on the tiles isn't centered, There's just the bags, like, I don't even want to get into the Kickstarter expansion that they did. It's just ridiculous. Okay? This is supposed to be a reprint with some add-ons and a tiny little expansion, and it was 14 months late. I had giant games get delivered that I would back after this one that got delivered. Dinosaur World, Isle of Cats with all of its expansions and big stuff. I'm telling you, Merchants of the Dark Road. I'm telling you, like, so many games that
they actually had to put more effort into all these things than what they had to do for this game. And they're like, oh, we're small. But then you deliberately delay production to add on more retail copies. You tell us that you're going to send it to backers before you send it to retail, and then you don't. It's ridiculous. Don't, in my opinion, for me, I will never, ever back another Steep Games product, ever. Because one, if I wait, I'll probably get it at retail before the backers ever get it. And two, I could probably get it at a cheaper price.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. I was at Gen Con and I saw them there. And it took every fiber of my being not to confront them. But I'm generally not a confrontational person. And I generally say positive things about these games. My experience for this is a 2. It's horrible. I can't play this game because of the experience. With that being said, I'm going to wrap it up. Okay, I know this is going to be super long, but I wanted to be thorough and understand that if you're going to back a game from them, this is what you're probably going to expect. I hope and I pray that they would make the changes that they need. And I'll say personally to Dave, you did a great job. You did the best that you could with what you were given. Keep up the great work. I really hope that you have a bright future and everything. I don't know what your plans are or what your involvement will be in future Steep Games projects, but he knows the frustration, and I just want to say I appreciate it because you had to go through a lot of stuff and deal with a lot of things. And it's crazy, and I feel for the UK backers. I feel for the Australian backers that get absolutely no information. I feel horrible for them because this journey is not over. And I'm so glad that's over for me. And yeah. So anyway.
I'm going to rate Chai, though.
Oh, yes. She needs to yes. What's your rating? I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
You gave it a what? A 6.
6 for the game. But I would tell you right now, I would never, no. 2 for the experience.
Well, okay. So.
I would go lower.
Obviously. So, for me, the base game was better. I feel like the expansion, adding that, dropped my rating. I would have given it.
So what would
higher.
just the base game be?
The base game, I would probably give it an 8.
Okay.
But
what would you give the expansion by itself? If you're just rating the expansion and what it brings to the game.
Can you give a 1?
I guess you could.
I mean,
you really don't need the expansion for this game.
No. And I would say with the expansion, adding it dropped it to probably like a 6.5 or a 7. And a 7 would be like generous.
I'm just saying, if you have an 8 and a 1, you average those out. I think it's more like a 4.5. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, but the expansion alone, like it was essentially nothing.
Right.
So that's what I would give it. I obviously did not have the same frustrations that Andrew had. I did not have to go through this whole stressful process of lack of communication and all the issues that he talked about. So I did not have to deal with that personally. So that did not really impact me like it impacted him. Granted, I was frustrated for him and I completely understand, his frustration because I would be livid, if that were happening to me and I would be questioning the same,
right. I'd question the integrity. I'd question I question everything, and I would never ever want to do business.
Yeah, and with being burnt out, like I feel like that's not a valid excuse if you're then putting out more games. If you're burnt out, you should take a break, stop, fill what needs to be filled. Because I feel
your
like
inner therapist is coming in.
Yes, it is. I feel like that's a sign. If you're not working effectively and efficiently and communicating and taking care of the customers that you have first.
These are people that supported you.
Yeah, before you take on other projects and then you're like, oh, I want more customers. Like,
you just ignore everybody.
The people that support you from the beginning, especially when it comes to Kickstarter, because that was something that I asked him about, was like, you could potentially not get your money, and that is a risk. But overall, I feel for the people that have had to also experience this. So, yeah. So we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, so that's our thoughts on Chai. That's our thoughts on my thoughts on Steeped Games. That's, I cannot enjoy this game because of it. I can't. The only reason we have it is because you like it. Otherwise,
It's
I
disappointing.
would have done a video of me burning the game. I'm not lying.
I want him to be
would've.
happy when he plays it.
I would. I just and I, you know, I generally give good reviews on games, even on games that probably aren't liked as much. But yeah, I can't. So that's our review for Chai and the expansion. Yeah, let us know. Are you one of the backers still waiting for your games? Are you, you know, what? Maybe you don't see this as a problem, and that's fine. And everybody's entitled to their own opinion. This was just my experience. So, what were some of your experience with a bad Kickstarter? You know, tell me how you get through it, and hopefully we don't ever have to deal with this kind of stuff again. So with that being said, thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and click the little bell icon so you get a notification every single time we post a video. I apologize for the rant, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
Bye.